Okay, I think we can start now. It's 10:30. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session. So I think for today's, right, we will mainly just talk about Palantir and also a couple of like growth companies like UiPath. For Alibaba questions, I saw there's some questions on the Slido, but I think we will skip that. Maybe we can cover that in future week. So I think for Palantir, actually the reason I brought up these companies is because in the past 2 weeks, right, where we have this weekly call, there are some members asking about Palantir, and I just skipped that because I don't know that much about Palantir to have a meaningful discussion. So I think let's wait for Gavin to join so that you can give a more detailed comments on the companies. But I think I'll just kickstart this session by asking Gavin, maybe you can just introduce yourself a bit, because you have shared your blog before, but maybe some of the joiners that joined recently, they don't know about you. Maybe you can start introduce yourself. Thanks.
Hi, good morning everyone. So I'm Gavin. So I run the blog that Boon Tee is showing right now. So it's called SG Stock Market Investor. Basically, I've been investing since May 2019, mainly in the Singapore market. Because back then there were like no cheap brokers for the US market. Then slowly as Tiger came in, then branched out to US. For myself personally, I have a tech background, so in terms of education and work experience, so that's where my expertise lies. So back when Palantir was announcing the IPO, I read up, and then there was a lot of bad publicity because it's very secretive, even until now, right? Like a lot of their products, there's still no true demo, even though there's like demo day where they show glimpse here and there. But I've been very, very excited about the company since like day one. I'm invested since like day one. My first tranche was like $9.25. Now I've been buying all the way up, buying all the way down. Yeah.
And you have followed this company before, even before the IPO or right at the IPO?
So I saw I like to browse through like companies that are going to IPO because I like to spot interesting opportunities. So I saw Palantir because I was looking under like specifically tech companies. So I read up, then I realized that the product suit itself was pretty interesting. And then ever since the IPO, I've been invested. Then I've been following the news ever since. It's been pretty interesting journey.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot for the introduction. I think we will just jump in to talk about Palantir first. So actually, just maybe can you give like just a very short summary on what this company is about? I mean, just from your perspective, right? Maybe you can talk a bit on their business and what are the stuff that you are paying attention to when you are following their news and also the company.
Okay, so Palantir, in its core, in its essence, is a SaaS company, right? So it's a software company. That's how they are trying to brand themselves as well. So they have a product suite. So basically, it's 3 core products, which is Foundry and Gotham, and then Apollo is sort of like a built-in together lah. So Gotham is your usual what you will know as for data analysis, right? So they have the platform has a lot of different ways for you to analyze data and then share across different teams and then write reports, so on and so forth. So that's how you would sort of understand it from a very simplistic view. And then Foundry will be more for its data integration, and then you can do a lot of things. One of the key things I'm looking at for Foundry is its AI and ML models that they are using. So Palantir now has been opening up Foundry to various industries, and one of the recent ones that they started into is crypto actually. So you can actually find it in their website. It's called Foundry for Crypto, and then they're offering solutions for startups that are in the crypto space. They're doing a few things such as know your customer solutions, KYC, and then various other things like fraud detection, so on and so forth. So if they start branching out into the crypto space and then reaching out to startups and companies here, the total addressable market for Palantir will grow substantially, right? because the crypto market is still growing as well. But taking crypto out of the picture, Foundry has been offered to a lot of industries, like really a lot of industries. If you go to their website, you can find, I think, can't really remember off the back of my hand, but they offer to automotive industry. So Hyundai recently had a partnership, defense, so the government contracts that they've had, so on and so forth. Energy companies as well, health and life sciences. So that's a short summary for what they do. And then Apollo is basically just it's their DevOps solution to keeping their softwares updated. Even if you're running on the cloud or on premises for wherever you're running the platform or the software, Apollo helps make sure that it's always updated, newest features, least bugs, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's about it.
And what's the main reason that you are so bullish on this company? Because when we talk about like SaaS companies, right? Actually, if you go through SaaS company, even if you filter out only for those that is growing very fast, right? We can see it's not like just 3 companies, right? It could be like maybe 30 companies. Some are even growing much faster than Palantir. I see even there are companies that are growing at 100%, right? Especially those very small ones.
Like Snowflake.
But yeah. Snowflake is also one that is can you can say there's some similarity with Palantir, but back to Palantir is that why are you so bullish on this specific company and not just like a growth story as a whole? You know.
Okay, so in tech, I'm invested in tech, but not like generally tech. So I invested in different industries in tech. So I have investments in DevOps, so that's a very new and growing industry. I have investments in cybersecurity, which is Crowdstrike, and then so on and so forth, right? So for Palantir, it's in a special, I personally would call it's in a special niche or a special like circle, because it's not really just doing like data analytics, right? So it's like data analytics, and then there's like AI component and ML component that really makes it really unique. And then on top of that, there's a lot of other like sub reasons, such as they are mainly government clients, their clearance in the government is really high as well, so on and so forth. But that's one of the few reasons. I feel like it's in a level of its own where there's not really a true competitor that you can really bring and compare apple to apple.
Yeah, I remember we did discuss in the chat before. We said, okay, if we want to ask like who are their main competitors, right? Actually, it's really hard to find a company that is like directly compete with them, right? They are almost because like really no, yeah.
Because some people will try and mix and match, try and like pinpoint, or you can use maybe Datadog to compare to the data analytics side, or you can compare with Salesforce or whatnot. But it's like you're trying to compare one company to a portion of what Palantir does. So trying to find a company that can compare apples to apples is really, really hard. Until now, I still haven't really found. If someone can find, then can share with me. I also want to know.
Yeah, definitely. I think that also make it hard to compare, because usually, let's say I say AWS is very good, and then someone might say actually Azure also is also quite good. Why you think AWS is good, right? So there are direct comparison like that, make it easier to really compare. But for Palantir, it's just so hard to do so. That's why I think there are people who study this company for like some time also still couldn't make sense. I'll just pause here for a second because I think we can go through like the rest of this article and also talk about the valuation. But before that, I just want to see if anyone has any questions. You can I'll give priority to those who join here, before we like close here, and then we move on to the Slido and cover the questions there. Any other questions? Anything that you guys want to ask Gavin here? Yeah. No questions? Then maybe we can just come to the valuation part because I think this one,
is very interested.
That 35% growth like sounds good, right? And then we look at the market cap. Okay, at its peak, really quite high, I would say. But right now, I'm not sure whether we can say it is like super undervalued or is it fair. I also don't know. But I look at your valuation, I found it quite interesting also because valuation sometimes I don't really care so much on the numbers. For example, let's say you come up with 150 billion market cap or 500 billion cap. I don't care that one as much. I care more about the assumption that you put in.
How it's being calculated.
Yes, because that represents like you put a number on what you are thinking about the company, right? Yeah. So actually here I saw you have 3 different scenarios, but let's say if I just focus on this number, the net margin, right?
Yeah.
Net margin. I think you put in like 20%, go up to 35%. In 3 scenarios, it's around this range. The lowest you put in is 20%. So actually my first question is, I recall, let's say, even the recent 12 months, right? I think their net margin is still negative because margin, they will factor in all the stock compensation as well, right? You look at cash flow, that might be positive, but net margin is negative. So I just want to hear your thought on why for financial year 2022, you already assume a 20% margin. Can this be achieved or not? Or this is just,
Honestly, this valuation table this was in November, right? So this was quite a while back. And then my assumptions, or rather how I came up with a few of these numbers is because one, over the past few Q&A sessions when they had result release, their COO has always been talking about cash flow. Cash flow has always been like the most important thing that they mention. I think they mentioned the key metric to look out for in 2021 and moving forward is adjusted free cash flow and adjusted operating income. So with every SaaS is very different, right? So let's say for Crowdstrike, perhaps they are looking at ARR, sorry, not ARR, they're looking at DBNER. So it's like dollar-based net expansion rate or so on and so forth. Different SaaSes are looking at different key metrics to determine how they are growing, right? So for Palantir, the key metric that they're looking at is free cash flow. And obviously you can see in the last result, free cash flow really grew a lot substantially. So this assumption, honestly, I don't foresee them reaching profitability, not because they cannot, but because they choose not to, right? Because as you can see now, they are like expanding out. So this was my thought in November versus now. So now my thought is that they might not choose to be profitable, not because they cannot, but they rather not, right? Because they're now expanding to so many more industries with Foundry, like just like I mentioned, crypto. So why wouldn't you reinvest back the money to grow substantially and accelerate it right now, and then reap the profits much earlier and reap a much bigger profit, right? So that's my thought process for net margin wise. Honestly, it's just a very conservative way to value it, right? To me, it's really very hard to value a number because I can try and take out industry averages for SaaS companies and then try and pluck it here and there, but it still be very hard to like, let's say assuming Salesforce is at this PS and then Palantir will be at this PS also, but it's really comparing apples to oranges. So these numbers are very, to me, it's conservative, but then again, there's also a bit of like, you need to be slight bullish. Even in the bear case, it's still slightly bullish.
Yeah, exactly. I think you are right saying that all these different SaaS company because of the they are at different stage, right? So the net margin percentage, all these we cannot just directly compare them. But I just not comparing against other companies. I just look at the number 20% in order to know like how this net margin will what's the number for 2022 or beyond, right? We basically need to know like how much revenue they bring in, and then we also need to know like how much is the cost of revenue, but that one is very small portion. The larger portion is actually their expenses, right? And they need to spend this kind of expenses, especially in their marketing and sales team. They need to like send their consultants to the client's place to implement some solution, maybe basically also acting as a consultant, right? So I just want to understand like how are you so confident that they will like generate like 20% margin already, given that, you know, can they actually cut their expenses? Because essentially, if they can cut the expenses and growing their revenue at the same time, for sure, these numbers can be generated. But can we reasonably expect that, let's say from this year onwards, their their expense, let's say keep it at constant, doesn't grow, and that one itself is already quite aggressive assumption,
high,
right? We should expect that they have more clients, onboard new clients, send more consultant to do the work, and they need to pay them, right? Could be share compensation. That one is fine. I just want to know, like, all in all, like, can we expect that to happen?
Looking at the situation now, versus 3 months back with my assumption, I feel like it's changed a lot. So looking at the current state of how Palantir is expanding, I would revise this valuation table slightly, but the key metric that I'm looking at doesn't really change. So the key metric I'm still looking at is still market cap, because I'm still valuing it based on market cap and then comparing it to its total addressable market. And to me, I'm not using profitability as a way to evaluate the company. But if you ask me right now, I would think they would target profitability in 2024. That's my assumption, because right now they are expanding foundries so fast into so many industries. I don't think they will try and be profitable as compared to just reinvesting the business and then just aggressively growing. That's my stance, like, as of now.
Yeah, got it. Because I recall Gixman also.
Sorry.
Young want to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yes. Morning, Kevin. I just want. Yeah, I think another way to ask Boon Tee's question just now is what kind of mode do they have so that they can turn profitable when they want to? For example, from a tech perspective, like you are in this field, right? Like, can you explain a bit more on, like, how good are their programs compared to, for example, if they're expanding into all the new industries, crypto and so on, right? Shouldn't they be already a player inside that field that is fighting for the same piece of the pie?
Okay, so
and what kind of mode they have, like, yeah.
When we talk about mode, this is a fantastic question actually, because end of the day, when it comes to technology related software, end of the day is always talking about mode. So because the question always comes out, someone can just easily create something similar, right? And then just replace you, just sell it like cheaper or make it a better product and then sell it and then fight for the same pie. So for Palantir, a few of the reasons or a few of the things I find as a mode for them. First one is a big portion, or relatively still a big portion of their revenue still comes from government clients, right? So we all know that government agencies tend to not change out software very, very often, right? I'm pretty sure there are still government agencies still running on Windows 7 and Windows XP, just because it's that old and it's so hard to migrate up and upgrade the entire infrastructure together. So having such a sticky client is a mode for Palantir already, because let's say because Palantir's current clearance in the across government agencies, I believe there's only 4 or 5 other companies that has similar clearance that as Palantir. So it's really very hard to just come in and then steal their government side businesses, right? So that's for the government side. So now they are moving into commercial, and then for commercial side, honestly, there isn't a huge mode, right? There's like a ton of companies. So let's say today I want to engage Palantir for their data analytics side of the product, right? I could easily also engage maybe Datadog or Splunk or Elastic, or there's like so many other data analytics or monitoring companies and products that I could opt for, right? So it comes down to Palantir selling themselves as a very mature company, because end of the day the AI and ML models that they sell with Foundry, right? Models need to be trained with data, and it needs to have a huge data set to train effectively and fast. And Palantir has like almost 20 years to train the model up. It's not very easy for a company to build a software and then train it to a similar level over such a short period of time. Not saying it's impossible, it's definitely possible, but for a company to have access to that amount of data and then to train it in such a short period of time is not very probable. Not saying it's impossible. It's just not very probable over the next few years. In like maybe 10, 20 years, it's very possible for a competitor to come out and then just fight for Palantir's pie. Yeah, I hope this answers the question.
You mentioned about the data. Can I ask, like, the data, is it like owned by the clients or is it like kept by the Palantir? Palantir is like collecting the data and do stuff on it, or actually the data
No.
still
So Palantir doesn't store. Yeah. So one of the things that when I was researching out Palantir was, are they keeping data, right? Because if they are working with government clients, then the data is very, very sensitive. But no, they're not keeping any data. But from my understanding, the clients will use their models and then train with the client's own data set, right? So that will help train the overall models. But they're not storing any data. This is from my understanding, from what I've read so far and understood.
So it's more similar like Microsoft Windows. So they just sell the Windows and then you still store your own data, right?
Yeah.
I mean, quite similar in this sense.
Yeah, in that sense, yeah.
I've also heard this from the YouTube video from that German employee. They do not store any data, and also their data security is a very high priority.
Yeah, correct.
Can I come back to this table here and just ask one more question? I'm looking at the growth numbers, right? Let's say 3 years, let's say 1, 2, 3 years, you're expecting them to double or maybe triple, right?
Yeah.
My question is, this growth, right? Like, do you expect more growth coming from the government contract, or is it like come from the private clients?
So for this growth, right, I foresee that government contracts, the growth will slowly like plateau really, because they already have so many clients on hand and they don't renew as often and the contracts won't be as big. But looking at the commercial side, right, because it's still starting out, I feel like it can like really accelerate, which will help boost the revenue by a lot. Like if they can capture, like right now, if I'm not wrong, they mentioned they only have a small handful of Fortune 500 companies. If they could expand it out to maybe, let's be very realistic and like give a very conservative number, like maybe just 10%. So 50 companies, that will really accelerate growth by a huge portion. 50 Fortune 500 companies.
Have you talked to anyone, for example, like your peers or friends in the industry, right? Have you talked to any clients that actually are already using Palantir? Like even friends, like do you have any feedback?
No, but I don't have any connections that have been in that have used the Palantir software at all. But I've been on the subthread. Sometimes the Reddit subthread has interesting stuff to read on, where there are like actual like people that work at Palantir and they'll share a bit about how the products work. So
yeah,
it's good to read.
Can you share a bit like what are the things that are standing out to you? Like in terms of client, this is like something like client review, right? Are they saying that wow, this platform fantastic, can never live without Palantir anymore, stuff like that?
I feel like for the most part, the general consensus is that the general consensus is that Palantir's software and product suite is very ahead of the competition basically. But like that's the general consensus, is that it's very ahead, because it's been here for a while and it's really been building for a while. So that's the general consensus, that it's way ahead of its competitors. That's the general consensus that from what I've read lah. Yeah.
I have a friend in Airbus cabin maintenance. So he's an airline in Europe, a small airline. He used the Skywise to do maintenance, to order parts or something. But I have no other feedback. I only heard that he's using Skywise.
Is that part of the Palantir suite or related?
I think it's related because it was a few years ago. He was talking. I think I saw in his Facebook or something. He was saying that got new software and then like he can order parts easily or something like that. But I didn't know it was Palantir until recently. Someone was saying like the Skywise that Airbus using to do their maintenance is part of Palantir, or at least from Palantir.
It's Skywise is developed in partnership with Palantir for Airbus. So that this product is developed together with Palantir. Just to clarify, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think so usually if we are the customer ourselves, it will be much easier to appreciate how good it is. Without that, I think we just have to rely on the, like all the demo videos, which is not so clear, right? Especially you imagine, I don't know how much you understand about from that demo video, but you are from tech industry. I'm not, so when I watched that, I was like, okay, complete blur still.
The demo day, when I watched it, I realized that it's really suited for like people who understand tech. Like if you don't understand tech, you will be very lost. Then you will find a demo day is like a very waste of time. Because it's quite cheap, some of the things that they say, but it was quite interesting to watch.
Yeah, definitely. So any other questions, or or Gavin, you have anything to like cover in the blog that you wrote? If not, we can move to Slido.
I think everyone is very curious about the share-based compensation. So I think maybe we should touch on that, right? So okay, first of all is the why is there so much share-based compensation, right? So the mindset is, and this is inspired, if you can go read up Peter Thiel's 0 to 1, where he talks about how to get from 0 to 1 for startups, right? So how do you keep the best talent? Like we're talking about really the best of best talents. It's not by paying them like huge salaries. Actually, the best way is really through stock-based compensation, because they will also be incentivized, right? If you think about it, they are also incentivized to work harder. Because let's say if today my bonus is in share-based compensation and I get 100k shares, right? And then let's say I work really hard, I help the business grow 200 times, and then so on and so forth. My bonus suddenly grow just because I work slightly harder. So it's a really mentality to like incentivize. As for why there is so much, is because tech industry is really very competitive. It's really very competitive. Like they are competing for engineers with FANG companies, and even if you take FANG out of the picture, it's like Silicon Valley startups. There's so many, and it's very competitive. So share-based compensation, I think it's fine, honestly. Like if I were to think from their standpoint, if I want the best engineers, I want them to be so motivated every day, come to work, I just want to help the business to grow, then share-based compensation is the way. So talking about share-based compensation the second thing will be Alex Cup selling a lot, right? So in essence, the selling will stop because he has cleared out most of it already. It's used to pay for tax. And then the COO has also talked about moving forward, the share dilution will reduce significantly. So I don't think there's a huge issue on share dilution, but I was also very curious because everyone went to keep asking what's the number. So I went to dig up the numbers, and then I added it up. If I'm not wrong, I have the number here. It's 2.53 billion shares in total, assuming if every single stock option is being exercised. So if you want to be very conservative, very safe, this is how I evaluate, or one of the ways I evaluate Palantir is, let's say I foresee it to reach 100 billion market cap in 10 years, right? So I'll take 100 billion divided by the total shares, and then that will be the share price. So that's that's one way you could evaluate it, right? Because when it comes to tech companies, sometimes it's more meaningful to use market cap as a valuation method rather than just looking at share price. Like look at Apple. Apple is like less than $200 a share, but it's 3 trillion, right? Just past 3 trillion. So it's it could be misleading in a sense. Like look at Tesla. Tesla's like $1,000, but it's actually only 1 trillion in market cap. Yeah, so especially when it comes to tech stuff, I would like to use, I tend to use market cap as a way to value it. It's more meaningful for me.
Yeah, actually, in terms of the stock-based compensation, right? I think this is quite fair. This is like, it's just like one form of expenses, right? They need to pay their engineer. I'm fine with that, but I'm more concerned on, like they are giving up stock options, or let's say if they exercise to become a shares. That one we know, right? But the problem is, okay, if we look at the trading and you look at the share price, it's like kind of like down, right? It's also because of there are many, all these insider selling. I think Alex Cup is one of them. Maybe there are others also selling, right? So I think this is something that we as a external investor, we look to their actions and not to their words, right? If, for example, if they think that, okay, the company is going to grow well, profitability will come soon, everything is good, right? If, let's say you are the engineer, you hold some shares there, you will want to hold the shares rather than just keep on selling it now, right?
Correct.
But when we look at the insider keep on selling, and that actually put quite a heavy pressure, downward pressure on the stock price. Not saying that stock price drop means company not good. It's just that it will become a signal. Yeah. So what's your take on,
Okay,
on the,
so
them selling?
Palantir has been around for very long, right? I all the analysts like to say, oh, Palantir has been around for almost 2 decades, so and so, not profitable. But think about it this way, right? So let's say if I join Palantir in the early stages, let's say I joined when they were like 2-3 years old, and then finally they are finally listed, I can exercise I can finally exercise and start to enjoy the bonuses that I was given many years back. So end of the day, just because they're selling doesn't mean, they bought high and then they're selling low, cutting losses. Sometimes they're selling because they had so much stock options, they want to sell now and then start to enjoy life, start to enjoy the bonus that they were given, right? So that's one of the train of thoughts that I have. So just cause insider selling doesn't necessarily mean that, they bought high, sell low, cutting losses and running away far. Yeah.
Can we have some perspective on the amount of percentages they're selling?
The amount of?
In terms of percentages, right? How much are they selling?
Wow, this is number I need to dig a bit, but I think one important thing that a lot of people are asking is Alex Cup selling, right? Because the CEO selling his own shares means it will ring some bells in your head. You think, is it the CEO losing confidence in the company? But Alex Cup actually has majority voting power in Palantir. After selling so many, he still has the biggest voting power. So he's still very confident in leading the company, as you can see from all the interviews and that's the way the company is being run. But I think percentages wise, this one will need to dig a bit on the specific how much is being sold out.
Yeah, this is always the hot topic. I recall, just go to YouTube and you just search, right? There are so many YouTubers talk about Alex Cup selling and then why. Because I think once there's such announcement on him selling heavily, I mean, this company is, I think the retail participation also quite high, right? So there are people who are quite concerned. Okay. Any other questions before we move to the Slido?
Is there any expectation for next year's share-based payment expense?
Can you repeat again your question?
Is there any expectation for next year's share-based expense?
Expectation,
because
I didn't really look into that.
contract.
To be honest, my only thought right now is how much is it going to dilute from this year to next year, right? So like this year, how much are they going to dilute more? And my number was 3%, around 3%. That's my expectation for dilution moving forward. Would be about 3% on average.
Okay, Kelvin, you're saying something?
Yeah. Before we go to the Slido, do you have time for me to share a bit what I have listened from that German YouTube video?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll try to be as quick as possible, as quick as concise as possible.
Take your time.
I'm also quite interested in what they were talking about.
Yeah, because what I think more or less Gavin has touched on the what is in the video, but because I started from a base of knowing nothing. So I don't own Palantir. I think maybe one of my funds have, but I don't. It's very small percentage. But anyway, the video. Let's go to the video lah. So the video is between startup fund house called 10x DNA. It's a German-based fund, and they interview their holdings. I mean the people, the companies that they invest in. So Palantir is one of their biggest holdings. So they invited the I think, I don't know what his position, but it's pretty high in the German market. So they are he's like a sales manager, a regional manager, more not really sales. They are building, like what you said, building sales team, but he's more like also very practical in the integration and acquiring of customers there. So he started off, they asked him about explaining what is Palantir. So he started saying that Palantir is out to solve the world's biggest problems. So this is his words. I'm just translating. So I have no personal opinion. If I have a personal opinion, I'll say it out loud. But all this is from his words. So they are solving the world's biggest problems, and they only work with the US and its allies. So they will not work for authoritative regimes or any enemies of the US state. Then he talked about what is basically their product. So their product, he said that they sort of split into 3 parts. First, they do the integration. Then they have an the analysis part. And then there's the operations part. So let's start with the first part, where the integration part comes. So he said that they can work with the structured and unstructured data. So he gave a bit of examples, like structured data is like databases that we have, registry, let's say your customer data, like the name, the how much money they do business with you and so on. And then unstructured data, he gave an example. For example, let's say the speed sensor in a plane. So it keeps feeding data through the time space, right? A lot of numbers, and they can collect that as well. Then then the next part is the analyze part. So the analyze part is to make sense of this data. And then the next part is the operations part, which is to use this data to improve the organization's decision-making process. Then by having this decision-making process, they can also use it, and by having these decisions, the organization can have also a very fast feedback loop, so they can actually simulate, like what Gavin said also, they simulate based on the decision they make, so that it helps improve the decision-making process and also improve their models. Okay, then all this is actually to help an organization to have he called it a common operating picture, which means that across the whole organization, from the CEO down to the worker in the factory floor, all of them have access to the data and also have the power to use the data to make decisions. So he gave an example. For example, let's say the CEO, he needs data from the financial part, he needs data from the operations part, and also he needs to know what is needed in the factory floor, what is the bottlenecks and so on, so he can have that data presented to him in a very user-friendly way to reduce the blind spots. Because if you want to make a decision science, you may miss a certain data which will affect your decisions. And also he gave an example. For example, let's say a factory floor worker who needs to order certain parts, and that factory floor worker can access data from, let's say, the logistics part. When will there be a supply issue, or when will there be a financial problem, or when will the invoice come out, and so on and so forth. So that will help the factory worker or the floor manager to also make decisions. Okay, then he went into a bit about how the software, how their platform can save money, because he says that a lot of companies nowadays, the data are all very siloed. So financial department has only the financial data, the factory floor has only factory floor data, manufacturing has manufacturing data. And also there are a lot of software that is being bought by companies where it has a lot of data, but it's not being used. So it's a waste of money. So it's just like an expense on their department, but then nobody bothered to like use it. So their software can actually connect all these data from different structures, different platforms, like from Excel sheets to CSV to SAP and so on, to make it into like a common operating picture to help everyone have the same access and same power to make decisions. Then he talked about the security clearance, what Gavin said just now. He gave an example is that Palantir has a level 6 security clearance, one of the highest, or actually, yeah, one of the highest. I think the highest is 7, but they have 6. And Google only has level 2. So that's the comparison he gave. Then he moved on to the product by itself. So he only talked on 2 products. The first one is the Gotham product, which is actually where they started with when they are working with the security forces, which means the governments lah. So the Gotham is a bit more rigid. It has already a lot of defined use cases, mainly for investigation and prevention of crime. So he gave a very nice example. They work with the North Rhine-Westphalia, in English is North Rhine-Westphalia. It's a state in Germany, the police in this state. So they leveraged the software, the Gotham that they had. They managed to crack a child porn ring. So they managed to arrest the leader and brought down the whole child porn ring. So he gave an example how it worked. So first, this leader, his car got damaged on a business. He gave a business compound. I don't know, maybe like a car park or something like that. Okay, so his car was damaged. So this guy, he made a report, a police report for that damages. Then from that police report, the platform got his phone number from the police report, but this phone number was registered to another fake name. And then this caused like a bit of a red flag, because the name that on the report is not the same as the telephone number name. And then they found the car was also another fake name or another name. And then when he used this police report to make an insurance report, it's also on another name. So the platform sort of like pieced this together to say that this is like suspicious. So then they went in further, and then they found that he's the child porn leader. So they caught him, and then they cracked down the whole crime ring. So that was one very good example of how this software can work. So he gave this example because he wants to show that currently, or before using the platform, this kind of data from different departments, right, it is not being integrated and being collected easily. Last time was very manual, so it takes about like 80% of the effort to actually get this data and then to piece it together. So now they want to flip it around. They want to make sure that the time to collect data is reduced, so that more time will be used to doing investigative jobs. That means doing like human jobs instead of going to just collect data and waste time. Then he went from this to Foundry. Foundry is actually based on the Gotham. That means they work with government, and now they thought, okay, let's start. How can we use what we have learned working with governments to benefit the private or the commercial side of things? So it started in 2014. He said that the Foundry is a more flexible and more open kind of platform. It is used more as a tool for the organizations in learning the problems in their organization, to solve these problems, and also to make decisions faster and then you can see that it helps your business grow, and it helps to make a lot of decision making easier. So one of the strengths of Foundry is that it has very fast data integration, so they can collect the data across the organization. It cleans up the data, and you can use it to create your models and your use cases. So the cross-discipline between organizations is all possible. So if you have any question, you can just jump in. Then, but I'm just parroting what they say because I have no I have very superficial knowledge on all this. Okay, then after he's talked about what Gavin said also, I don't know if you said it or not, but this was the low code and no code kind of system. So they can they build in such a way that everyone from the organization without an IT background, you don't need to have an IT department to create modeling, to create models, to create use cases for your organization. So everyone, like say the factory floor worker, can say, okay, I want to find out, is it possible for me to buy certain parts next year or something, or next week or something, right? So he can build his own interface and apps, right, that can get the data and then provide him the information that he need to make the decision. Okay, that's mainly what he talked about. And that's one last part only. The interviewer was talking how do they address the critics that Palantir is just a consultant agency. So he used, because in Germany there are a lot of IT consultants, right? It's just a normal he said is Palantir just a consultant shop? So the guy or the person was interviewed said that currently it looks like that because they are still learning from the customer. So they actually deploy what they call the forward deploy engineers to the companies which are interested in improving their workflow or improving or solving problems. So they will send these kind of engineers there, and they will talk to the customer first and say that what kind of decisions or what kind of problems you want to solve. They are not not just a data company, which means they don't just say that, hey, what data you have, let's put it together. But they start with what kind of decisions you want. Then only they will look at what data will be useful for this customer to make these certain decisions. So that's their sales approach. Okay, so they acquire and then they I think they expand or something, and then then they try to scale up. So they start with the use cases and so on. So they also do this first now because they are learning. Because what they have before, the use cases from the government is different from the use cases in the private sector. So they are doing it now. Okay, and also they use it as they say a negative revenue thing because they are not making money from this yet, but they want to show the capabilities of this platform to the private sector, and then after they scale. So the cost now is very high because it's very manpower intensive in this sense, and it's loss making because there's a lot of customization work for each individual company, and that's why the critics say that you are just a consultancy. Okay, but he said that there's a plan moving forward, is that they want to take these learnings and then after that they will reduce their manpower intensively as the platform matures, and their aim is to have out of the box software as a service, and that's what Gavin also said just now. So they also have Palantir for builders, and they are working with the startups, that what Gavin also said about with the crypto startups and so on. So they have they are very positive in this The feedback is good. I think they are already in the second round already. And the last part is that some people will say that is Palantir an AI company? He said AI is not the company's core competence. What they do is that they enable the use of AI, because AI and machine learning needs data, but a lot of data is not being structured in such a way that the AI can use it in a useful way. So they are enabling the AI. But of course, they do have machine learning models and AI in their analysis, but their core component is not that. They are actually trying to, getting the data, the useful data from places that maybe we might not think that is useful, and then they enable the use of AI to make decisions in the future. Okay, yeah, that's all I have. Yeah, that's all I have. No more.
I think to add on to the point about the way Palantir is built, that's a very good point I forgot to mention, which is they they build it such a way, right, where the data and like the end report that you want to see, it's easily read by everyone from all departments, right? It's not just like, oh, we need to hire data scientists and data engineers to go and dissect the data and try and understand. Then we write out a report and then we share to like maybe the sales department, right? So the way the platform is built is so that it's easily understood by all departments, and then it's very easily like readable and understandable, the whole data and everything else, which is a very good point I forgot to bring up. So yeah.
Yeah, Gavin. It's good to hear from people from like more from this sector. Like if you are from the IT or you from like data scientists, you know the challenges. So that's why I also want to learn, because I'm not from the data side of things. I'm not software savvy, right? So is it like what they are claiming, right? Saying that they can like integrate data from different, I've used SAP before. It's a nightmare to use because the training itself is already so intensive, right? Not everyone can use it. But do you think that what Palantir claims is doable, or is it really true in the sense that it can make it scalable?
Okay, so you're talking about what the engineer has been talking about, what he say they do. Is that actually possible, right?
Yes.
Okay, so during demo day, actually whatever the engineer talked about, right? During demo day and some of the whatever days that they have or whatever demos that they have shown, right? Actually, basically is whatever you said, like really it's possible, and it's something that is not very easy to do, especially when it comes to data, because they work with big data. It's not like to put it into perspective, right? Like normal data that we work with is what, 10, 20 gig, okay, maybe like 1 terabyte at best. They're working with big data that's like hundreds of terabytes. It's like very, very big data, and it's very, very hard to work with.
He gave an example. He gave an example. The sensor data from the Airbus could be in petabytes.
Yep, correct. So that's why it's termed as big data, because it's really very huge to work with. And it's very interesting how they try and put together structured and unstructured data. It's something not very easily done, but it's doable. It's definitely doable.
Okay. I missed this part. Just a small part. He gave an example of he cannot name any other companies in Europe because of confidentiality, but he gave the very famous one, what I said just now, the Airbus Skywise. So Airbus has about 120 clients, different airlines. So one of the things that really they are proud of is that they have the predictive maintenance data from the whole fleet, so they can do maintenance. And for each client, right, they can actually pull data from the whole fleet, not only for their own, like let's say if you are a small airline, you have only 5, right? But instead you can get data from all the Airbus clients, and then you can can structure your maintenance, your parts ordering, everything like together with the other clients, so you can save on like logistics costs, you can save on like money and so on. So they actually saved 1.7 billion euros in 2020. And they are also starting to build more business models from the platform that they have with Airbus.
Yep. So this is, if you're asking whether it's possible, yeah, it's very, very possible with the platform. Another example that I remember they brought up was this one is in government agencies context. I think it was Alex Cup that brought it up, which is let's say let's say today the army, the SAF wants to go on the ops, right? So they will deploy different units such as the commandos, the guards, so on and so forth. So you have a lot of units, and it's very hard for you to coordinate what's the plan across with everyone, right? And you need to keep track of resources, so on and so forth. So one of the things that they talked about was, if I'm not wrong, Gotham has Gotham together with Foundry actually has the platform set up so that, let's say if you go for an ops, right, you just need to like put it together and then say, oh, this is all the resources that we have, and this is shared across with everyone, right? And then through the AI and ML model, it will actually suggest actions, which is really, really very interesting. And I think it's possible lah. I've never really seen it in action, but I think about it, and I think it's quite possible that the AI and ML model actually is able to suggest advised course of action based on the resources they have, and then like the mission criteria that they have lah. So that was pretty interesting.
After listening to this, right, I somehow feel that Tesla is using this also, because when yeah, when I mean, I'm not surprised to find out if they really is a customer of Palantir, because previously when I listened to some of the podcasts of Tesla, what Tesla is doing in their agile manufacturing, right? They also have data from the whole company, then they can like have decision making, and it feeds back into their whole company, to provide that information to the whole company. So it's interesting to see, right? But we don't know. I mean, it's just a speculation. Maybe
I
Tesla
think
is a customer.
I think a few months back, in this group, I think there was some discussion about whether it's possible if Tesla and Palantir work together. And I think I remember I said something along the lines of, I believe Elon Musk as a CEO and as him being himself, even if they engage Palantir, they will use the software and the platform as a layer. So think of it as each product is a layer. So first layer will be the data. So the data will come through Palantir, right? But seeing Elon Musk as being so innovative, I'm sure he'll think of a solution or to build another product on top of the Palantir platform. So like everything, all the data will go through Palantir, and then Palantir's data, whatever that they come up with will go to the new product that they build, and then from there they'll work on it. I believe that's, if a collaboration will come out, I feel like that would be the structure. Like Elon Musk would build another layer on top to further enhance the product suite to better suit Tesla's needs. I feel like.
After that, they will remove Palantir.
Yeah,
That's
use finish away.
I agree also. I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's not too far fetched to think, right? I mean, they came from PayPal, right? Palantir.
Yeah, Elon Musk. Yeah, co-founders of PayPal.
Yeah. Okay.
Peter Thiel was also part of the co-founding team.
Yeah, that's why it's very interesting. Yeah, the way that, I mean, even if it's even if it's not working together, right? But the way they think, right? Actually, it's almost the same, the way they build this thing.
No, Palantir is not just like the linkage, right? It's not just Alex Karp with Peter Thiel, It's like the entire Palantir actually came out from the PayPal, because they look at those financial transactions and they say, okay, so much data, right? How could they actually arrange the data? How do they build a platform so that they can leverage on like all this analysis stuff? That's why Palantir was founded. It was came up as from PayPal itself. So not just the person, Yeah. Actually, when I listened to Kelvin, just like you mentioned about, the government is using Palantir to solve crimes, right? Actually, I think, okay, we tend to say, okay, big data, this thing is very impressive. We couldn't make sense of it. Actually, not really that chim, because actually we live on this big data stuff on a daily basis. I think one good example is like Facebook, Google. How do they actually push ads? What kind of targeted ads that they push to us, right? It's all backed by all this machine learning, big data stuff, right? For example, like let's say I'm chatting with let's say I heard this one, like I'm with close proximity, like physically with someone, let's say my wife, right? And then we verbally talk about something like, should we buy this furniture or not? Just chatting. And then one day suddenly, like Google's or Facebook, they will push these relevant ads like, hey, do you want to buy this furniture from IKEA or not? This kind of things, right? Actually, they came from the AI suggestion, right? Because they know that, okay, this person A, person B, they are close to each other. And then person B do a Google search on something, person A might be interested as well. Hence, they just push the ads to us. Back end is all the big data. It's just that now, as of, let's say, if we look at past 10 years, right, before Palantir, let's say before Palantir become more common, all this machine learning stuff is all owned by big companies like Facebook, Google, and so on. But right now, what Palantir is doing is actually they build a platform so that they will enable other companies. Could it be like small, medium-sized companies that is maybe large enough to have this kind of budget to spend on Palantir, but not big enough to Tesla, Google level that they tend to want to do it themselves. So I think these are the basically their TAM, right? Because, like they are solving crimes, right? It's basically having data from all sorts of places, and then they just draw insight from all this data, right? It's a bit like Sherlock Holmes, but Sherlock Holmes act based on intuition. But right now, we don't need this kind of individual's intuition. We just need a big data, and then from the big data, they can actually drive. They can get good insights already. At least that's my take on like the entire like mode or story that come from Palantir.
Talking about Facebook, right? Actually, I think it was almost 1 year back. Someone on the Palantir subthread found out that Facebook is using Palantir or possibly intending to use, because they had a few job postings out on Facebook looking for security analysts for child safety and dangerous organizations around like globally. And then one of the preferred qualifications that they put was familiarity with link analysis tools like Palantir. So it's quite interesting to note that Facebook is using or intending to use in the near future.
Yeah, but I personally is not that bullish on this side, because like what we want from Palantir is like they have a standard product so that they can scale, right? So that's how they can maximize the revenue and minimize the cost, right? But when it comes to like all these big companies, their use case is so specific, and they all, to them, you give them a standard product, they are not satisfied. I think that's my take. They will just say, okay, I take this as a start, I use it, and then after a while, I will want to build stuff on top of that. And whether I spend more money to Palantir for them to build it for me, or I spend the monies on my own engineers and build it myself, I think they will go through the customized solution for themselves. At least for the big five companies, Tesla, Facebook, Google, these kind of companies. Even if they are using, it will not become a big business for Palantir. But the big one is actually those like second tier. By second tier, maybe the companies might not be small also. For example, you could have companies that is between, let's say, 200 billion cap and below. These are companies are huge. They have big budget, but they are not like the top big tech. Because if all these like Google, Facebook all using Palantir, then I think they really dominate the world already. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? If not, we can go to Slido. Okay, let's move to Slido. If we have some question, maybe we can talk about other companies like Upstart, UiPath. But for now, I will just clear those questions that is related to Palantir one first. Okay, I'll read these questions. Is Palantir just full of hype? So many YouTubers asking to pump it, but share price has been disastrous last year. I think this is interesting to talk about, because I also noticed that I mean, on YouTube, there are so many YouTubers talking about Palantir. To me, it is interesting, definitely, but what makes it so interesting that everyone is talking about, right? So interesting to hear your opinion. Yeah.
Okay lah. I've watched. I will confidently say a big handful of YouTubers that talk about Palantir, and the big majority of them, I get the vibe that they're just reading off what they see on the website. Oh, the product is this and this. Then they read off word for word. But I feel like they don't give me the sense that they actually understand what they're reading or even understand what the product is. So there is a lot of hype. I'm not gonna lie. Actually, there's a lot of hype, and there's a lot of blind hype, which is very bad for the stock price. But for me, I'm investing in the company. The stock price go down cheaper, buy more. But I'm investing in the long term lah. So over the long term, as long as the business does well, I don't really care about the share price. It will eventually follow along lah.
Yeah, sometimes I also wonder like all these influencers or YouTubers, are they actually like, have some arrangement behind the scene, and maybe someone, I don't know. Let's say if I have tons of shares of Palantir, right? To me, it's a no-brainer for me to like give some, give some
for their
some
own
incentive.
benefit, right?
Yeah, I give some incentive just to pump first, because I don't care already. I have so much shares. I just want to liquidate. I'm not going to wait for another 5 or 10 years, even though I know they might be, the share price might go up further, but I just want the liquidity now, right? For example. Yeah, do you think such thing happen?
Honestly, it's very hard to say that there isn't, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be Palantir, like any stock or even any sort of investment, there always will be people that try and capitalize on hyping people up and then like just having their own benefit. It's like pumping and dumping. But I think as long as you're a long-term investor, it's just like a small little road bump on your journey, so it's fine lah. If price drop a lot and it's cheap, then buy more lah.
Yeah, got it. Please just jump in. Let's say if you have any other related questions, we don't have to like go through one by one. I'll just go through first, see what are the, I think the one that is related to Palantir one first. I think Sofi, these are questions. I think we don't have more other questions. Share dilution we already talked about, just the outstanding shares issued if the shares were held by the company and now issued, isn't it dilution? I think this one, Gavin, you also explained already. Basically your take is that we should just take whatever, like including those stock options, assuming there will be
view lor.
Yeah, the most conservative one. Yeah, I think this one we also talked already. Let me just scroll through. Then I think we don't have other Palantir. Any other questions related to Palantir? If not, we can just go to other companies quickly. And actually, there's one. Is Palantir software subscription based or one-off? You want to comment on this?
It's like subscription based, but it's like a long subscription. It's a SaaS, so it's software as a service. So it's sort of like a subscription, but like they sign contract and everything, and it's not like 1 month, 2 months, it's like a year or two, that kind of stuff lah. It's not really
some longer, right? I recall some, let's say
like
even 2, 3, 4 years. Even longer,
there are
right?
some that has like now 2 years, and then there's a extension part of the contract as well. There's like a lot of different contracts all over the subthread.
Yeah. My understanding is that, okay, let's say it is 3 years, right? So they will sign, so they have to continue paying for 3 years. After 3 years, basically, it's like renegotiate. Either they terminate the contract or they find some other providers, which is very hard to migrate, or they just renew. And let's say if there's any renewal, there could be potential for hike also, right? I think this is quite common in enterprise software. If you
correct. It's standard across. It's not just Palantir, like all are like that. Crowdstrike, DocuSign, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's quite scary one. Actually, there's only usually two outcomes. Either they hike the price because the customer feel that they cannot live without the software, right? They just take it up. I just pay 10%, 20%, 30% extra. I just pay it as long as my business is running. Then if not, right, they might just drop off, right? So they might lose this as a client. So depending who has more bargain power between Palantir and also the clients.
Right.
Okay. Then I think let's spend some time on other related companies. For Alibaba, I will just skip this question because I think we talked many times before. Let's say if there's a need to discuss Alibaba, we will just have a dedicated session. Okay. This one I talked already. Okay, let's go to other companies. I think these are related. Upstart, do you look at it before? I think they are similar also in terms of their business model, right? Yeah. You want to
Upstart is more into fintech, right? So when we talk about fintech, there's a lot of big names that come up. There's always like Square, PayPal, so on and so forth. So there's also Upstart, and then later on someone mentioned about Sofi. So they're all in the same space, but I personally like Affirm. And I won't talk too much about it. But for fintech space, my personal choice is Affirm. Simply because number one, also Max Levchin, which is their CEO, is also from the PayPal team. And so he knows what he's doing, right? He's run PayPal. He knows how fintech startup should work like. And another thing is the way the business is being run. So so traditionally how banks and all these like credit card companies earn money is through hidden fees, right? Late fees, and then they charge you insane APY, and then so on and so forth, and then you just need to pay a big ton of fees. So for Affirm, they are really going towards the idea of being transparent throughout, right? So they if I'm not wrong, a portion of their loans are actually loaned out with 0% interest at all, which is quite cool, honestly. And they are really working on being very transparent about their fees. No hidden fees, no sudden 10-20% that comes out at you when you're late by like 1 month. So I really like the business. I really like the management. I was invested since the IPO as well. So yeah, thoughts on Upstart would be interesting space. Interesting space. Everyone will have their own preference for fintech, really.
But I saw more similarity between Upstart with Palantir, because in terms of their business model, they are also like, okay, I have all this big data stuff, and then basically I just want to sell to the banks. So you take on my service.
The AI portion.
The AI portion, and then they take a cut, right? So I think in that sense, it's more niche than Palantir. But business model also similar. But yeah, you are right that they are focusing on the fintech area only, not outside. Yeah. Actually, you talk about Affirm, right? I'm just curious, like why suddenly there's so much like this trend about all this buy now pay later. Before this, right? Let's say 1 year back, right? No one has talked about this, and then suddenly Square, they bought the companies Afterpay, right? M&A, right? They purchased Afterpay, and then suddenly this Affirm came up. I also haven't heard of Affirm before. So what happened actually in this space? Like why suddenly there's this trend?
So buy now pay later has always been a thing, right? If you think about it, your credit card also is buy now pay later. It's something that's always been there. It's just a new buzzword that's been popped up. Buy now pay later has always been around. Your credit card also, you buy now then you pay next month. It's the same logic actually. It's just a new buzzword that's just been pushed around. Honestly, it's nothing to be. I feel like it's nothing to be excited about. It's just a buzzword. It's like cybersecurity, AI. It's just buzzwords.
I think it's also a function of how credit is so cheap in these recent years compared to before. So I think these kind of new startups, they can actually, they want to push, getting more customers while taking a loss first. So as compared to like credit cards, banks, they need to have a profit, and they also are very conservative in a sense, right? So I think the buy now pay later trend now is that everyone has access to easy credit. So I think that is why you can hear or listen to so much buzz nowadays. And also maybe because as you know that I lost it. Everyone is like it's so easy nowadays. Like you just an app, instead of you going to the bank and get the background check and credit and everything. So I think it's also maybe good, maybe bad. I don't know, but yeah, I agree. It's just a buzzword. The concept is not new. It's just that the profits and margins are different. And also maybe they can leverage on data, like microcredit, what the Brahmin Bank did last time, you give small amount of loans to people who can who can use it to improve their lives. But it's a bit different like buy now pay later, you are actually asking people to spend more than they have instead of using it to invest in themselves. But yeah, we'll see. I'm very skeptical of this. Actually, in my personal opinion, I'm quite skeptical on what is really how will it really scale, or would it like become another financial crisis?
Yeah, we call it like fintech, right? But actually, this buy now pay later, I don't see any like tech behind it. Maybe in terms of integration, yes, so instead of you have to go through the banks and ask for a loan, now it's all built into the platform itself. For example, let's say you buy something on Amazon, you buy something on Shopee, straight away the buy now pay later options is there. Then immediately it's all automated, right? I think in this sense they are like integrated. But in terms of tech, I don't see any like Moat behind it. It's more like a network similar to the Moat or strength that Visa and Mastercard now having. But I guess with
to leverage on or to bring out what Kelvin said is actually for Affirm, right? I'm not sure about other buy now pay later or fintech companies, but for like you said, buy now pay later is really encouraging you to spend more than you have now, right? So for Affirm, it is really beneficial for commercial side, especially during COVID. They partnered with Peloton, and then they helped Peloton boost a lot of sales because of the buy now pay later. Yeah, actually this was like one of the interesting stuff that I read out on Affirm when they first IPO, that they worked with Peloton during the COVID period and helped a lot of people, or rather helped Peloton deliver to a lot of people their products. So that was pretty interesting how they are really helping businesses on this end.
Hi, this is Keith here. I hope people can hear me. Just to chime in a little bit, right? Some of the things that I read up was, I think this is more from the angle of like why this kind of BNPL is like something that.
Now we lost you, Keith. Yeah, totally lost you. Cannot hear anything. Please let me know when you come back. Yeah, because can't hear you at all already. While waiting for Keith, I think we just move on because we just now talked about Upstart. Let's move on to talk the next one. On Crowdstrike, I'm open this to anyone who want to give any comments. I will just skip myself. I don't have any comments. Anyone want to talk about Crowdstrike? What do you think?
Crowdstrike is a pretty big name in the cybersecurity space, and for good reason. Obviously, the product's good. The numbers really show how great the product is, because companies keep on renewing, and not just renewing, but also increasing their spending with Crowdstrike over time. You can actually see in their financial results. Companies, maybe they start off with 2 products, then they next year they review to 3, renew to 4, renew to 5. So it's really a boost in motivation for investors that okay, it's not just hearsay, this is good, that is good, but the numbers really show for it also, that companies are putting more money in Crowdstrike, and putting more faith in Crowdstrike to protect them lah.
You also invested, right, in Crowdstrike?
Yep.
Nice. I think this cybersecurity will always be, the demand will always be there. We just need to make sure that Crowdstrike is, leading in terms of their product offering and services, right? Another one that is related is called Sentinel-1, right? I heard.
Sentinel-1, yeah. It recently IPO also.
Yeah. You have any comment on that? Or let's say comparing their product? Yeah.
I honestly, I think a few months back, I think I got compare but I don't really remember it offhand right now. But I've looked through a lot of cybersecurity companies. Really, a few months back, I was looking for one that I want to get into this niche. I just want the best of the best. I don't mind the returns won't be as high, but I just want the best of the best. Because cybersecurity, really, everyone goes for the best. No one goes for the second best. Because you want your data, your data to be secure. You want next day wake up your company toh, right? So I keep digging around. I looked at a few, right? I looked at FireEye. I looked at I can't remember, but I looked at quite a few. And then I just kept comparing to CrowdStrike. This compared to CrowdStrike, that compared to CrowdStrike. And I feel like CrowdStrike's product is great. Management is great. Numbers are also fantastic. And then the customers that they already have is a strong sign of, it's also supporting the fact that they have great products. So yeah, in this space, I strongly prefer CrowdStrike. Unless someone has a good thesis of another cybersecurity company that's better.
Yeah, I think these sectors, although we tend to say, okay, cybersecurity as one thing, right? It's like we say, okay, you want to buy semiconductor, there is one thing, right? But actually, if you just dig deeper, you can see that they are actually very different in terms of their offering, in terms of their services. For one example is I've seen one company called Fortinet. I think the price also shot out a lot last year. And I look into their offerings, right? It's quite interesting. It's when it comes to cybersecurity, it's not just the software part, any security, cloud security, stuff like that. It's not just that, you know, because when it comes to security, sometimes you need to get into the hardware itself.
Yeah,
For example,
correct.
like you have the server, and then you need to buy like specific hardware to secure the network, stuff like that. It could be like subset within that cyber security, and it could be quite huge also. And sometimes it's not just one company. Sometimes you need different companies with their products to secure the entire things, right? So it's really huge and very like need really a lot of the research to have make sense of this area. As for me, I really don't know much. I just heard about this on a very surface. But cool. Crowdstrike. Anyone have any more specific questions on Crowdstrike that you want to pick on Gavin's head, or you want to share your thought as well?
I wanted to ask, what makes Crowdstrike better than the competitors though? Like, what's their competitive advantage?
So there's no exact mode, right? So because cybersecurity, when you look at it across all the companies, like they do have overlapping products here and there, and there's no exact mode. So like a company or like the current competitors could easily outbest Crowdstrike. But at the moment when I was looking at the comparison, reading online reviews on like reviews as in the companies that use these products, and then they compare and review, a lot of great stuff come from Crowdstrike. Be it the security on the security front, or be it when something actually happens and then how fast the recovery is. Yeah, I can't really dive very deep into it right now because I can't remember back of my head. But yeah, you can like easily Google all this kind of stuff. It's there's a lot of reviews written, so and I think it's quite helpful. It helped my research process.
I think at least for the cybersecurity front, right, the biggest worry is still like your reputation is constantly on the line, right? You are good until you're not lah. So like,
correct.
There's this expiry date that nobody can expect, because when there's a very big hacking incident, or if there's a leakage or whatever lah, then that will totally tarnish your current expectation and how all your customers are looking at the company. So
correct. That actually happened for FireEye, if I'm not wrong. Last year, there's some incident where they worked with if I'm not wrong, they worked with a government agency, and then there's some hack happening, and then it really crushed FireEye.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think if you don't know which one is the best one and you still want to get some heavy exposure because you are bullish on the sector, right, then maybe just go for the ETF, because the entire sector won't go on. This one for sure, there will be like in a higher demand. Yeah. Okay, I think we'll move on to the next question. Can invest in SARK? If not mistaken, this S stands for short, right? But I don't know exactly how they are doing this. Anyone want to give any comment on this, or do you know? Gavin, you want to comment on this?
I actually never heard of this. I thought it was one of the ARK ETFs. I actually don't know what is this. I'm actually trying to find. I actually don't know what is this though. Is this an ETF or?
I think it's a ETF that short ARK investment.
Yeah, it's a 1 times short on ARK K. So it's I mean, if you're very bearish on ARK and you don't believe in Cathy Wood, then this could be an investment.
but I'm thinking that, okay, actually I also look through some Twitters, some other investor. Even right now, right, people who are bearish on the overall market, right, they don't short, for example, they don't short QQQ, but they still short ARK, So, but all these are very seasoned traders or investors, right? Even if they are shorting ARK, they don't blindly just short, They always have all this risk management. For example, like using some indicators, the moment 7-day moving average cross the 5 days cross the 7 days, they straight away like getting out already. So they're just riding on the downtrend on ARK. They are not doing this like forever, because you want to get rich 10x from shorting. I think this is impossible. So and your loss is always like unlimited, right? So I think just be careful, and if you are doing it, just know what you're doing, I don't know. I will usually advise people who are bearish to stay away. This is not a war that you want to fight, I was keep on reminded by the period where Tesla getting like shot to a very low level around, let's say 2017, 18, that kind of period, right? And then Elon Musk just come up 420, secured funding and just screw all these short sellers, right? It's really, really scary.
And the losses are infinite.
Yeah. Don't play the kind of game. Okay, next questions. How much percentage cash to leave in the investment account? People always say it is a waste not to be fully invested. The same people also say save some cash for down market. I personally discussed this one a lot now. I just want to hear your thought, Gavin. You want to comment on this?
I personally agree. I hate having cash. Okay, I understand the usage of cash in a portfolio, right? But I personally hate it because I'm so young. Like I'm actually very, very young. So leaving cash in my portfolio is a very big opportunity cost. Like easily, even if I want to be very, very safe, right, I will still put it in USDC and then stake it for 12%. Something, as long as the money is working somewhere, right? So right now, with the market being somewhat shaky and sideways and sort of we don't know what's going on, I'm staking more and more USDC, at least for the time now, because I don't want my money just sit there and just idly wait. So that's my view lah. But I mean the general number is always 15 to 20% cash, right?
It really depends on some people 50, some people 100%. In terms of leverage, right? Some is like fully invested. Some go for 150%, right? Because cash is trash. The opinions can range from like big range, depending on who you're asking.
Definitely. But for you, your cash will just be in your brokerage account, right? I remember.
For me personally, let's say I have 1.05 exposure, meaning like for every $100 I have, I invest 105, something like that. And I don't have cash outside of brokerage account already, very, very low just for my living expenses. But right now, I'm actually turning more bearish, but I'm layering it via some short-term instrument, like options, futures, this kind of things. But not to the extent that I totally have a beta zero. Yeah. But that one is really short-term view. Long-term, I think you cannot bet against like SPY, this kind of, you cannot bet against it for long-term, right? So that one will still be the long-term. That one won't change. Okay, next one. Upstart, what's the hype? Pure credit rating play versus broader ones like Sofi. I see many growth investors are into it even when it was almost 300. Now it's 120. You have any more comments? Just now we briefly talked about it already. But
I think for Sofi or Sofi, I feel like they both have different target audiences. If I'm not wrong, Sofi is more targeted towards a younger audience, like students, for student loans and stuff like that. So I think it's good to take note when you invest in this kind of fintech companies, right? Even though the product offering is the same, their targeted audience might actually be quite different. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for Upstart, I'm not sure whether you guys remember the video showing CNBC interview, and then the guy said, "Wow, Upstart can show can invest keep on pumping the stocks," and then the guy asked him, "Hey, actually, what is Upstart about? What's their business?" And then the guy just cannot answer. You guys remember? Later I share again in the group. But interestingly, that video, right, is the peak of Upstart price on that exact date, 300. Yeah. Okay. Just fun story. Next one, Katie Wood fell from grace. ARK keep falling. It's quite heavily shorted. Good to short. I think we discussed this. Same as the SARK questions. I think we'll just skip this one. UiPath. Below IPO price now. Is it the only listed company doing mainly RPA? Is it RPA quite old school tech? Any valuation on it? But before we get in, right, RPA, I don't remember the full name already.
Robotic process automation.
Yeah, robotic process automation. Yeah. Gavin, please, this question is for you.
Okay, so first off is honestly, personally, I also don't know if there's any other listed companies doing mainly RPA. If have, please share so we can all analyze together. But for me, okay, so after I graduated poly, before I went to NS, this was like last year. I attended a paid course for UiPath, like to learn about the product. So I was paid to attend the course, and it was really eye-opening. The amount of things that you could actually do with UiPath is pretty cool. Like you can really automate one entire department, and then like I think you can automate almost an entire department's work, and then you can just save up the entire cost. But like it's really like things that are very mundane, that like you do the same thing every day, like HR stuff or administrative stuff, things that are like every day you have to click this, click that, click this, click that. Then those are things that you can really make use of UiPath. But valuation wise, it has a very small total addressable market now. Yes, like it's not very big, but I see there's a very big space for it to grow as time passes, and then they go through M&A and then expand their product suite. There is a space for it, but it's quite cool. I have a small investment in UiPath. It's an interesting space. After I attended the course, I found it quite interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. But I'm looking at this, they are all about RPA, right? So actually my immediate question is that, what is the better approach, right? When for, let's say, for companies that have a lot of all this tedious work that they need to automate in order to save some employee salary costs, right? Because one way to do it is you just look at what they are doing now. They do this, fill in the form, clicking this, clicking that, and then basically come up, settle one tedious work. The other way to do it is not using RPA, but you kind of like take the entire process, understand what you are doing it, and then take those built into the workflow itself, right? For example, like you can use API, let one platform or talk to another platform. Basically, everything is doing. You just code the things instead of using RPA. I think this is basically very different way of approaching the automations, right? Do you think like this RPA, like the second approach, which is using all this API, do you think that's superior and will actually like dominate the in this trend towards more automation?
Okay, so I have a tech background, and I work with APIs a lot, so I can easily tell you I have a very biased opinion, is that APIs and just writing automated scripts are like the easiest way if you know tech, or if you have a tech team that's doing it. It's the easiest way, and it's so very customizable. A lot of things that I do on a daily basis are like automated already, because I'm very, very lazy as a person. But UiPath has a space, there's a need for UiPath in this space, because not everyone knows code, right? If you bring back to the Palantir talk just now we had, when we talk about when you have the data finished, and then you need to hire data engineers to analyze. So similarly for this case, if you want to automate but you have no tech team, then what's your solution? UiPath is a solution, because sometimes, if depending on company to company and situation different, right? So for some instances, maybe just paying for the license and then maybe hire 2 people that know how to use UiPath saves a lot more cost, versus hiring a whole tech team, and then they need to go and build the script, this and that, right? So there is a need, I feel. What do you think?
Yeah, I think RPA is a bit more like shortcut. There's less work to do, and then you can actually achieve the same thing. But let's say over the long term, we're talking about 5-10 years out, right? If we look at current process, there are still many processes are done manually, even though manually doesn't mean paper and pen, right? It means that you are actually taking data from one platform. Yeah, you need a person to do it. Then now you just want to immediately just replace this person. I think UiPath is or RPA is the way. It's easier, quicker, and higher ROI potentially. But let's say 5 years later, right, I will expect that anything that is new, right, it will be already something that is more friendly to actually using API, just plug and then make sure they are all done on using these best practices, which mean all this API approach. Yeah, just want to hear your thoughts, whether like, I get what you mean. Like, okay, there's market now. My question is more like, okay, are the market still big enough, let's say 5 years later, or actually this is shrinking?
I think 5 years later, it will still have a space. I don't believe it will go smaller. I believe maybe it will grow slightly bigger. I don't think it will take up a very big portion of the pie, honestly, because okay, so when I attended the course, apart from me, actually most of them are like senior people, so like people that are 40s, 50s, even 60s, they are like learning about all this, and it's quite interesting. Yeah, so new perspective on who is actually taking up and learning all these products. But UiPath is actually very, very customizable. So it actually can do many things, and it's not that once you do it once, you it's like fixed already. Actually, you can always go back and edit the flow, right, to however you want it to be. You can add in extra steps, you can take out extra stuff, so on and so forth. It's actually very customizable.
Very, very interesting.
UiPath and UI RPA and all the API things, right? It's actually just merging together. UiPath itself also sees the writing on the wall that they have to go API anyway. And if RPA also isn't new, so actually they've been around for I don't know what 5 to 10 years already. So if you look at some of the companies that have used something that's similar to RPA in the past 5 years, I think some of the Singaporean companies are already doing it since 5 years ago, like StarHub, I guess. And they after if you do all this RPA thing after like 2 or 3 years, you start to realize that there are things that you definitely will go API no matter what one, because it's just easier to change, and it's just over the longer term, it's just easier to hire someone who is API trained, right, to do it that way. Like Jeff Bezos also saw this in don't know what 2003 2004 already so it's just a matter of like the information how fast does it trickle down to all these SME companies only so whether UiPath or some other RPA companies can actually improve, right, is depends on whether they can execute the change to whatever visual tool that they have, that they have a backend API tool as well that makes it easy for both the stupid users and the smart users to use at the same time That's all that they have going for them because if you go in a new forward way, it's definitely just API taking over. That's it. Yeah.
Just to add on, like for those who are interested in UiPath also has API documentation. So yeah, it's good that they are also not die doing RPA, but they also have API documentation implementation.
One last thing is that typically people go for API, not necessarily API. Typically, the people who go for the RPA things, right, are also when they have a lot of legacy systems that their computers that literally are from other OS or other programs or things, or even some that are running in like VMs or stuff, and then they use RPA as a layer on top to actually control it all. So that's also another thing. If they don't have the API design to fix it, then they do this
I think this one somehow tied back to, when we talk about Palantir and then we say it's really, really hard to migrate out. So you can see that all these, like maybe some banks are using some old software that based on don't know what kind of coding that they themselves don't know how to replicate in a new system, right? So they will have to continue to do that. And then in order to do some automation, they have no way but only using RPA. So I do think that this RPA thing will be around. It's just that how long could they stay, right? I think that's the question stuff, but definitely interesting to watch. And the company also is not die doing RPA. What they have is like they have a core. The way they do it also will change in the future. So these are, I think, relatively new companies also. Okay, I think yep. that's all on UiPath. I might need to end the call soon. If we're not able to cover all this, maybe we'll just cover in the future lah. I will just quickly go through some that we can talk about. Okay. Anyone keen to share Baba DCF model? Curious of the intrinsic value here based on my current DCF would be 250. I think for Alibaba's one, let me check, see anyone have DCF that can go through together, and then we might have a dedicated session for this. Or ST asking, right, if you have a model, you say your current DCF will be 250, like, please share in the team so that we can take a look, and then maybe in coming voice chat, we can have a brief discussion on how you come up with these numbers. So it's always good that you share first and then we all chime in, right? Rather than just looking at asking for a model from someone else. So I'm happy to hear to look at your models. Okay, next one. Is Master Leong right about Tesla falling to 600 and USA economic correction or downfall like 2000 or 2008? Yeah, this one I want to hear your thoughts. Gavin or YCX or anyone else want to chime in?
Thoughts on Master Leong or thoughts on Tesla?
Both. Any on this line, like any comment?
Don't know about the
but this is recorded.
So I'll just avoid because I'm not a professional about Master Leong, so I don't really know about this person, so I'm gonna avoid that. But Tesla falling to 600. Honestly, I feel like when these kind of questions pop up, like the correct question you should be asking is, if Tesla falls to 600 tomorrow, what am I going to do? Right? Do you agree? Right? It's more about what you are going to do when this happens, rather than trying to predict if it will even happen.
Yeah, totally agree. What about correction stuff? Any comment on this? Not just Tesla.
Honestly, right now it's so hard to tell, right? The market is in like sort of a sideways movement at the moment because of so much uncertainty. So the best thing to do now is always to have a plan. Or if it falls X%, what are you going to do? If it goes up X%, what are you going to do? And just have a game plan and make sure you know what you want to do and then execute if it happens. I think that's the best like course of action. That's what I'm doing also personally.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree. I think this one actually quite easy to predict lah. You can say the market will be volatile. This one for sure you win one. All right, let's
correct.
Yeah. It's like 讲了等于没有讲. Okay, I think let's move on from this. Can we invite Chicken for second round of Alibaba analysis here? And also, is Charlie Munger going crazy? I don't get it. Just now Chicken commented, but I think we don't have time to really get into the details. I'll make sure next round, if Chicken is able to join, I will let you guys know in the group so that you guys will able to join and we can have a more in-depth discussion. But for now, let's skip first, because not enough time. Why is there a divergence between China and US stocks? I thought US will bring everyone down. I think just maybe this one or two more questions we cover. Other we just have to close the call. You want to comment on this, or are you investing in China stocks, Gavin?
I think the summarized answer would be, if you believe in the long term, then you invest, because like all these kind of questions, like how much do you think the market will drop, or there's a divergence between this and that. It's like it's a very short term thinking. So if you're a trader, then I guess this is the correct question to ask. But if you're a long term investor, you should be asking the important questions like, is this company going to grow 2 times in the next how many years or whatnot? I think that's like a better question to ask if you're a long term investor, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. Have you looked at Sense Time? That's
Sense
China
Time?
stocks.
China
That's the
stocks.
That's the company that just IPO, and they are also like big data stuff. Just don't know like whether you pay attention, because this is your field,
No, they didn't really look into it, but I know when people talk about China tech, it's always the usual names: Alibaba, Tencent, so on and so forth. I like Tencent. I like it as a business, but not invested. I just think it's a very good business.
Okay, interesting. Okay. we cover like one more. Estimate correction. I think this one we talked just now, right? Estimate correction level for USM market this year. Wow, I think we would just...
The market will
want
be
to comment
volatile.
on this? Okay. Why is the margin requirement for Upstart options so much higher than the other growth stocks? Yeah.
I think volatility plays a part, if I'm not wrong. But it differs from broker to broker, this margin requirement. But of course, the broker want to protect themselves. So if it's something very volatile, maybe they require more just in case if anything happens, your account blows, they won't lose that much money.
Yeah, I think that is definitely true. When you talk about these margin requirements, right, it's always broker specific. So please bear in mind that you cannot generalize. That is also why even until now I haven't really say much about margin. I always say you need to know how the margin work for the specific broker that you are using, and that's it. Because it's really hard, and all the assumption they can change last minute. Like they just say, okay, we are revising this and that. Please put in more money. If not, we liquidate, right? I mean, that kind of things happen quite often, especially when it get very volatile. So just be careful for anyone that is doing options. But related to this question, you are still using options, right, Gavin?
Starting to finally have access to options through Tiger. But previously I was using Tasty Trade. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just running some basic strategies like poor man's covered call and viewer.
I think the options, I don't know, interesting because for anyone who is using options, I think my message is this: whatever volatility that you have seen in 2021, right? Just don't expect the volatility is always at that level, because the volatility itself is volatile. So the volatility can go up. Let's say if the market just go downtrend. So don't especially those who don't have like long experience, right? Like you only started, let's say early 2021, right? Just be careful on those when you are selling put options. Just be careful. Okay. Shorting for the long. Any comment? Yeah, continue.
There's a question below that I'm quite curious for your answer. I think there's a question talking about TSMC upcoming earnings on Thursday. I think it's slightly below this question.
Yeah, I
quite curious
saw
on your
that.
thoughts on this.
Actually, my general thought is this. For TSMC, I mean, just TSMC or any other stocks, right? I own Apple, Amazon, all these companies. I don't really try to anticipate like what is going to come up on the upcoming earnings, because I think earnings, right, actually to a certain extent you can predict. For example, like companies, especially the big one, they will guide the analysts, right? They will have certain expectation, and usually you also don't see they off like quite a huge margin. Right? Doesn't happen quite often. Usually they will be slightly outperform or slightly underperform. Should be around that area. So to me, it's like, why waste so much energy to try to predict what is coming up, right? Because am I going to like speculate on this? It will be come up with outperform the expectation or underperform, right? I'm not going to do that, right? Like you said, I own it for the long term, and then I just hold it. I don't try to predict. But what I will do is just wait the release come out, and then I will read, and then I will look at the price movement. Let's say if the price shoot out a lot or down a lot, or try to look for the reason why it happens. So I will have a sense on why, like what's happening to the company. So let's say if I foresee from the earnings result, I foresee that the fundamentals has dropped, right? Then I will have use that information to like come up with what I'm going to do next, right? For example, if it is weaker and weaker, even if I want to own the stocks for the long term, I might not be selling, but I will just withhold my upcoming purchase because I think that they might be weaker in incomings. And if it is so bad that warrant like selling the position, then I will just sell. But I will wait for the result rather than speculate on whether they will outperform or underperform. So that's my general take when it comes to earnings. But let's say for TSMC upcoming earnings, right? I think they are still riding on this like shortages, so it will be good now. Whether it will better than the analyst expectation, like the share price, whether it will drop or increase right after the report, right? This one I really don't know. But overall, I think even if the sectors is downtrending or the company is downtrending, it's not going to happen so soon. Yeah. I'm not worried on, let's say, 2022 even. I'm more worried on, let's say, 2023 and onwards, because you all know that all these semiconductor companies, right? The sector itself is quite volatile because there's this cycle. So if you are owning these stocks, you need to be aware of it, especially those semiconductors that is in the memory segment. You know, like semiconductor, there are different segments, right? TSMC one is, how to say, they are safer in a sense that, let's say there's any downtrend, they will outperform the rest. But let's say if there's any continue to rally, right? TSMC also lag behind one because they are considered the quality, the safer side, not the one that is going, not the most volatile one. So yeah, that's my question. Not sure if I have answered your question. Satisfied with my answer or not? All right. I think we will end the call now because I really have lunch appointment. The other questions, if we can cover in upcoming session, we will do that. So I don't see any specific question. If you guys have any question that you want Gavin to answer, maybe just unmute and just ask. If not, we will close the call now. Maybe one last question for Gavin. I just want to hear your thoughts on this. Is crypto a good investment? Because just like you mentioned USDC, and then I don't know your position in terms of like Bitcoin or others coins, right? Just want to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so cryptocurrency, I've had a very interesting journey because I was looking at it since when I was in poly a few years back. So back then, I think it was like few $100s for like one coin, and then I bought Bitcoin, and I was like just day trading it. Thought it was pretty fun, but I really love the technology behind it and like the whole blockchain. But then trading it for a while, then I left it, and then I came back to it last year. And then I realized, wow, if I held on to the Bitcoin that I was trading, can buy house already. But okay lah, it's quite interesting. I do have positions in crypto right now. Particularly bullish on ADA, Cardano, and recently looking at Cosmos. Then yeah, I'm also invested in CRO because the platform is pretty great, honestly, and the card is good to use. Not sure if you are also using the card.
Singapore company, right? The crypto CRO.
No.
Okay. Okay, I think that's interesting take. Last chance, open to the floor for any one or two more questions. If not, we'll end the call. Okay, no more questions. Any closing statement from you, Gavin?
2022 will be very volatile. So just I think it's very important to manage expectation. I think a lot of people make very quick money in 2020, 2021, especially a lot of like people my age or like even younger that like make quick money, and then they might think that they're the smartest person in the world. So I think it's very important to manage expectations because money come fast, can go away very, very fast also. So yeah.
Yeah. What's your age? I think I asked you before, but can you remember?
Turning 22 this year.
Yeah, very, very young, very impressive. When I see like young guy like this, wow, I read your blogs, right? I was thinking, cannot be like so young, like almost like student age, right? But when it comes to analysis, quite too rough, and then like a lot on these companies that you covered, right? Really, really impressive. I don't know what I'm doing at that age, like totally no sense at all on all these things. Yeah, but very impressive. Okay, I think we will end the call now. Thank you to Gavin and also others who chip in, like Kelvin, YCX, and others. And then also for listener as well, thank you very much for joining this session. For the other question, we will cover in the coming weeks and so. So thanks a lot for joining, and see you in the next one. So I'll end the call now.